I don't know if my ego could take you might be wrong. I mean, that's the truth of it. We're not always 100% right, but yeah, it's kind of hard when somebody's in your face and telling you that you're wrong, which fits perfectly into our lesson today. It's my pleasure now to introduce our speaker. I've known Lisa for a while now. I actually met her before she started attending Center of Enlightenment through Arise Spiritual Retreat and Wellness Center. And she was brought to us by John Piquel. Yeah. And John Piquel attended here for a while and has remained a friend of Center of Enlightenment. Oh, he invited Lisa to church, and she loved it so much that she's been here ever since. And she's placed herself in amazing positions here to take care of duties in the church that at that time none of us knew how to do. So, and I do have to tell you, my attorney looked at our website and he said, wow, that seems like a pretty going concern. I said, yes, it is. So he liked the website.
Oh, good.
It gave a very wonderful picture of our church and how it's growing and expanding. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the podium over to our speaker this morning, Lisa Argo.
Thank you, Reverend Carol.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here, and thank all of you for being here, and for those on Zoom. And thank you, Reverend Carol. I appreciate you being here today and for being my mentor and definitely helping me along my way.
You're welcome.
For quite some time, I've been interested in humility. I grew up quite poor. Sometimes I had a bed, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes we had a roof over our heads that was ours, and sometimes it was someone else's. And there's things in my life that have happened that made me aware of what I was feeling, and that was humility. It's become an important part of my life and how I view myself and how I view others in the context of our spiritual life. And Spirit has led me to this topic for quite a while. I've been rolling it around in my head, and they've told me this will be a series. So let's gather a common form of reference to start. We'll do a Reverend David. Humility is the quality of being humble. The dictionary defines humility as low self-regard, and a sense of unworthiness. But in a religious context, it's different. Humility can mean a recognition of self in relation to God, our relationship with God, which we talk about here. And also a freedom from pride and arrogance, that being ego. And according to A Course in Miracles, the ego is idolatry, a sign of limited and separate self, born in a body. We are a body we are a spirit having a body, earthly experience. And in it, the ego sees the will of God as an enemy and takes the form in which it is denied. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful, which we know, since we are spiritual self, that is not so. Of your ego, you can do nothing to save yourself or others, but of your spirit, you can do everything for the salvation of both. Humility is a lesson for the ego, not the spirit. The spirit is beyond humility because it recognizes its radiance and gladly sheds its light everywhere. As we know, the meek shall inherit the earth because their egos are humble, and this gives them truer perception. Now let's go on a little bit about the ego. According to Bianca Alexander, in the positive, yes, there's a positive about the ego. It gives us a distinct personal identity that helps us fulfill our life purpose, allows us to share unique soul gifts with the world while working on our karma. In the negative, the ego fools us into becoming overly identified with our bodies, thoughts, and emotions. This attachment tricks us into believing we are fundamentally separate from God, which we know we're not. Okay, so humility is recognition of self in relation to God and the freedom from pride and arrogance. Ego can be positive or negative, but requires humility to release ourselves from the physical to go to the spiritual. So let me explain a little bit about why I think humility is so important. To me, humility frees us from being led by our egos. Being led to the heaviness of what others think about each of us and what is perceived by our roles and responsibility. Another ideals from the Course in Miracles is hiding from God, letting our ego rule. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. Humility can open our spirit. When we lead with the arrogance and pride, they are death traps to our soul. They wound us. The spiritual ego can hide behind judgment, religious dogma, or a false sense of moral superiority over others. This is harmful, as it deprives us of the impetus of this deeper spiritual work. If we cannot grow, we cannot learn, and in effect, we cannot teach. Some of the most common spiritual ego traps are the over-intellectualized spirituality. Though mental energy is helpful when memorizing inspirational quotes and sacred texts, relying on the intellect's understanding of esoteric spiritual concepts can block deeper experience of the truth. The essence of true faith and devotion are beyond the scope of ego logic. There is a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Having dogmatic beliefs, black and white, fundamentalist thinking is one way the ego gets to be right and not wrong and stop growing spiritually. If you find yourself getting into spiritual debates with others, or if you need someone else to get it, the truth about your religion or spiritual beliefs, it's probably your ego, not spirit, doing the talking. As Lao Tse says, he who knows does not speak. He who speaks doesn't know. Also, judging people who are less spiritually advanced than you? Do you believe some people are saved and chosen and others are not? Do you look down on others who are newer on the spiritual path? From Jesus to Buddha, all saints share a common trait: profound humility in God. In your spiritual beliefs cause you to judge or look down on others you deem less spiritual? You may be hiding a deeper sense of uncertainty about your own faith that deserves attention and resolution. Wearing a mask of excessive positivity. If you hear yourself using the words epic and amazing to describe your everyday experiences, even when they are far from stellar, you may be more concerned with what others think about you than what you're actually feeling. This is vanity. Even the most spiritual of people have bad days. And having enough courage to be honest with your emotions is a key ingredient to soul liberation. Humility breeds spiritual relief. Having a Messiah complex. Do you think it's up to you to save the world or others from bad experiences? Yesterday, this was me. My grandson was following me around the backyard, and we went around the smoker, but I didn't take him far enough around, and he burnt his fingers. And I felt horrible. What could I have done to save him? Nothing. I felt bad that he burned himself, and I got him ice cubes and loved on him. And he was okay after a little while. Though it's important to be of service to others, as human beings, we are neither omnipotent, only God is. When we surrender to the will of the higher power in our lives, it becomes easier to accept that there's always a master plan. These traps are in each of us. Having a physical experience fall into. Humility, compassion, and patience will help us continue on our onward spiritual schooling. As students of God, infinite intelligence, we learn, and as we learn, we teach. I found an article on how to quiet the ego and lead with humility. Our egos are always there. They're always a part of us because, again, we're a spirit having a human experience. Quint Studer says, humility is one of the most important traits a leader and teacher can have. It's about quieting the ego so we're open to learning and we're focused on continuous improvement and growth. Humility isn't about being meek or submissive or thinking you aren't good enough. It's about seeing oneself as we truly are, a part of Source. So what does humility look like in action? Always model what you want to see others do. Never ask anyone to do anything you aren't willing to do or expect them to keep standards that you yourself aren't able or willing to keep. Humility means knowing everyone stands at ground level. Humble teachers don't try to present themselves as special or different. Give others credit. Actively look for places where you can give someone compliments, gratitude for a job well done. Be accessible. Leading with humility means being being available for all and knowing each person has a voice and something to say. Make it clear that you have time for them and that each person is valued. Strive to be a learner. Seek to be a learner above all else. Be curious. Ask if you don't know. Don't be afraid to admit if you don't understand or don't know what to do. Even the best leaders or teachers have strengths and weaknesses, and they never forget this. Ask questions as much as you can. Make a point to learn something every day from everyone. Speak the truth for the right reasons. Be authentic. Don't package things in a way to try to make yourself look better. Be truthful, honest with yourself, and then you can be honest, authentic, and truthful to others. Listen and understand rather than respond. Communication should always be a two-way street. In a conversation, really try to empathize and understand what the other person is saying. This will help you get a better picture of what their needs and concerns really are. How can I help? How can I be of service? Maybe it's just listening. Admit mistakes. Maybe I'm wrong. Don't be blinded by the pride of ego or try to portray yourself as perfect. People appreciate vulnerability in leaders and teachers. Apologize sincerely when you need to. Say thank you at every opportunity. Recognize who contributes to the success of your work, your home life, your friendships. Seek always to lead, teach, and live from a place of gratitude. I've heard it said that the ego stands for edging God out. Being grateful is a way of acknowledging that our gifts come from a higher power. Leading with humility is not easy. Finding humility within yourself sometimes is not easy. Not leading with ego sometimes is not easy. It requires more self-assuredness and confidence than leading or teaching with arrogance and pride. We owe it to ourselves and others to do the work to develop this inner strength, to connect to Source and not to hide who we truly are and what we truly can do for ourselves and others. I'll end with the humility prayer. God, I am far too often influenced by what others think of me. I am always pretending to be either richer or smarter or nicer than I really am. Please prevent me from trying to attract attention. Don't let me gloat over praise on one hand or be discouraged by criticism on the other. Nor let me waste time weaving imaginary situations in which the most heroic, charming, and witty person present is myself. Show me how to be humble of heart like you. Thank you.